Joined. Again, this is our college week. Our first presentation is on CSU GPA Calculation. The universities of California and the California State Universities use a very specific GPA when determining applicant eligibility. This GPA is not the same as the cumulative GPA posted on the student's transcript. California applicants must earn at least a 3.0 GPA, and non-residents must earn a minimum 3.4 GPA, and all A through G are college prep courses to meet this requirement. This is for UC. The GPA considers A through G courses completed between summer after 9th grade through summer after 11th grade. There's a little bit of a breakdown as far as how points are given to each letter. Pluses and minuses are not important when considering the UC and CSU GPA. The CSU eligibility minimum requirement is a 2.5 or better. Some CSUs do consider students with a 2.0 through a 2.49. They may ask for supplemental information. The UC GPA considers grades for 10th grade. They will not consider more than 4 honors points from the 10th grade. Okay, so we'll go over that in a bit more detail throughout the presentation. So if you have any questions, please save those for the end of the presentation. Grades of D or F in honors and AP courses do not earn extra points. Grades of CR or pass and honors courses do not earn extra points. So if your student took an AP or honors course and took a credit or no credit or credit or a pass for that class, they do not get to give themselves an extra point for that class. Classes taken during the summer after 9th grade count as 10th grade. Classes in summer of 10th grade count as 10th grade, and classes in summer after 11th grade count as 11th grade. For UCs, one college course is 1 grade and 1 honors point. This is a little different for CSUs, and we'll look at an example for each in a little bit. Again, just to reiterate, for students that receive a credit or no credit mark in some or all of their courses, you'll just completely remove those courses from the calculation. So even if it's a no credit mark, just consider it as like it's not even on your transcript. So again, back to the community colleges. So a UC example. So a UC, like I said, it's 1 class, 1 honors point per class. For CSU, they're looking at it as like you would count it twice in your GPA calculation. So for example, in a UC, if you earned a B in like, let's say a history class, you would count this B once in your grade GPA and give yourself 1 honors point. For CSU, let's say you earned a B in a biology course at a community college, you would count this B grade twice in your GPA calculation. Competitive UCs like Berkeley and UCLA look at fully weighted GPAs. This means that you get an extra grade point for every UC approved honors, AP, and community college course you take from the end of freshman year to the start of senior year. And we'll talk about why this is important. And the reason for that is because most UCs and CSUs will max out honors points. However, Berkeley and UCLA, I believe last year for the first time, are considering fully weighted GPAs. I'm actually going to go through an example of a transcript to show you how we help students calculate GPAs. Okay, so for starters, like I mentioned before, your freshman year grades do not count. So we cross off freshman year, pretend like it's not there, just for this GPA purposes, for UC CSU GPA purposes. And then any class that does not have a little P, if you can see here, some of them have P, some of them have P+. If this is not next to the class on the transcript, we're going to cross it out as if it doesn't exist. Most of the time, those are for classes like PE, TA, and courses like that. Okay. The next step is counting all the A's. As you'll notice, there are some pluses and minuses. Mountain House High School doesn't really issue pluses or minuses, but we do have students that come from different schools that do. It doesn't matter if it's a plus or minus, an A is an A. Then you count all the B's, all the C's, and so on and so forth. And then we'll get to the AP and honors. So for most UCs and CSUs, with the exception that I mentioned earlier, the number of honors credits per year they maximize. So like this student, for example, we can see here, let me go back so we can see this student here, for example, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 AP courses in their the fall of their 10th grade. However, because you can only count 4 points from this year, we don't even look at the rest of them. Okay. And then we move on to junior year. Again, we're going to take the first 4 and then the second 4. These are not counted because the max of 8 was already met, even though we have 4 more that we can potentially consider. We're going to, okay, so that gives us a maximum of the 8 semesters. There is a GPA calculator that I like to use, and then the way that I do it is, and of course these slides will be available to you. This presentation is also recorded, so if you want to actually go through it with a transcript in front of you, you can. Basically, what I like to do is I like to use this GPA calculator. I plug in how many A's, B's, C's. It's important to put in a 0 if you don't have that letter. Like let's say you don't have any D's or F's and you put in 0. And then you have a maximum of 8 honors points that you include, and then it calculates your GPA for you. But let's say you wanted to hand calculate it. Every A is worth 4 points, whether it's an honors A or AP A, it's 4 points, because at the end you'll add the honors points separately. It doesn't matter where they come from. A point is a point. Okay. All right. Some people are asking for the link. I will send the link in the chat for those of you that want it. So that's the CSU UC GPA. If we go back, sorry, I'm trying to get the link for you guys. Okay, someone sent the link. Thank you for that. So that's really how you calculate the UC CSU GPA. I will take any questions if you have them. We already went over, there's a question about articulated classes from Delta. We already went over that as part of the presentation. The next question is, UC US history during fall of grade 9 for community college was considered under 10th grade or 9th. It'll be considered under 10th grade. So any other questions? I'll go ahead and take them in the chat. So the question is, if there are If a student takes honors class during first semester, can he or she take non-honors during second semesters? So although the class is not going to be considered in the GPA, it is still like colleges will still look at the coursework. So I don't think like we can take an honors first semester and then change it to non-honors. First of all, we don't do second semester schedule changes. We have a very strict deadline for AP classes specifically. But no, I mean, I wouldn't do something like that where I would do the honors the first semester and non-honors the second semester. Because they still look at the coursework, even though it's not included in the GPA. The next question is, if there are more than 8 honors or APs in 10th and 11th, then then how will UCs decide which one to take? It doesn't matter if you get 1 extra point for a C or a B or an A. It's just 1 extra point. It doesn't matter where it comes from. Okay. Yeah. So the next question is, how is UC going to prioritize applications since SAT is not? So I'm only taking questions about UC and CSU GPA for this presentation. I have a question. If I have taken more than 8 APs and for some of those I have Bs, can I just include? So again, it doesn't, let me just go back to a slide. It doesn't matter where let me just show the transcript. It doesn't matter if you get an extra point for this A or this B. The extra point is an extra point. It doesn't come from the specific class. It's just an extra point. So whether you get an extra point for this B or an extra point for this A, it's just an extra point. So we don't need it to be specific for the class. So I hope that makes sense. The question is, how does GPA calculation help while applying to colleges? So like I mentioned, UCs and CSUs use a specific GPA. So it's good to know where you stand as far as the GPA of students they accept into their college. It's just good for you to know where you are as far as that GPA goes. So the calculator, there's a question about the calculator. This calculator is for CSUs and UCs. It just helps you calculate the GPA. And I can post that in the chat once again. Use any GPA calculator will do the same thing. Another question is there a reliable site which shows last year's GPA acceptance in UCs, CSUs? Each campus has like data that they share as far as what kind of applicants they accepted into their school. It has like average GPAs and included on their website. And then there's another question says, where can we find a list of honor courses considered by UCs? Yeah, let me get that. We use a website, it's called Doorways, UC Doorways. And I will link that once I get to. There's a question. For each pathway, how many credits are required for UC? I'm not sure what that question is asking. There's a question that says, what happens to the honors courses taken in 9th grade? Is the points given for them? No, so no courses in the 9th grade. And I'm gonna see if I can go over just this transcript one more time. So again, for those of you that came in late, we'll just kind of go over this transcript really quickly. For considering UC CSU GPA, what we're doing is we're crossing off freshman year because we're not considering freshman year for this GPA. That doesn't mean that they're not going to look at the courses taken in freshman year. It's just not in the specific GPA that UCs and CSUs look at. And then we cross off any courses that are not college prep. That means on the transcript, there is not a little P on the left-hand side of it. And then after we've done that, we've crossed off everything we're not going to look at. We're going to count all of our A's, our B's, and our C's. Okay, so for this presentation, I'm only answering questions that are related to UC CSU GPA. The question is, what about colleges other than UCs? You'll have to, for colleges that are not UCs or CSUs, you'll have to look at their school and out of state and private and see how they consider GPAs. A lot of times some private schools will look at just weighted or unweighted GPA that's on the transcript. For this presentation, we're only specifically talking about UCs and CSUs. Again, even though this student here has 8 semesters of honors points for their fall sophomore semester, fall sophomore year, we're only considering 4 because that's what we are allowed from the 10th grade. And again, the same thing for junior year. Okay. So even though we have 16, we're only going to count 8 of them. Okay. And once we put everything in, we get a cumulative GPA here. I'll take some more questions now. It says, what about colleges other? Oh, we already answered that one. And then it says, can you also add UC's GPA and school transcript? Currently, UC GPAs are not. No, that's why we have this presentation. So we show everyone how to calculate the UC CSU GPA. Weighted GPA is better or non-weighted? In other words, is it better to take honors courses and try for A, or at least get B to get equal GPA of A and non-weighted? I'm not sure what that's asking, but for a weighted class, an A can be considered 5 points. So you get 4 for the A, then you get the additional extra point for it being an AP or honors course. For those of you asking about where you can find the GPA or even a copy of the transcript, the best place is to go on to Aries. Either students have access to their transcript on their Aries account. So if they go to Aries, grades, and then transcript, they should be able to access a copy of their transcript that has their weighted and unweighted GPA listed. There's a statement or question says, hope all community colleges courses are considered as AP and honors. Community college courses are not considered as AP or honors courses, but they are weighted like an AP or honors course would be weighted. But their community college courses are just community college courses. They're not AP or honors, but they are weighted like an AP and honors course would be. Another question, what about courses that are done from outside school during summer, non-articulated? Would that be added by colleges? Of course, that will be yeah. So once students are putting in their application, for for UCs and CSUs, they're allowed to put in all of their community college courses that they've taken, and the colleges will look at those as even though they're not articulated classes. So yes, they will take a look at them. Yeah. Can you please paste a tiny URL address for the GPA calculation here? Yeah. That's the GPA calculator. Okay. Again, this presentation is recorded and we will be putting it on the website by the end of this week. Which one UCs look at more closely for making decision, weighted or unweighted? So UCs are not looking at weighted or unweighted. They're looking at your UC GPA, which is what we just went over on how to calculate. What you have in screen for honors is also included in the AP class. I'm not sure what this question is asking. It says what you have in screen for honors is also included in AP class. Do you want to ask that again?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, in the previous screen you had the GPA calculator. There you had put honors like eight classes or something that includes both honors and the AP classes, right?
Yes. So where it says honors and like the number 8, that's a combination of AP and honors.
Okay, thanks.
The GPA on the transcript is not. So the GPA on the transcript. So if we look here, we got, when we calculated our UC CSU GPA, we got a 3.73. If we go back to the actual transcript, oh, I actually don't have it on here, but it's not the same GPA that's on your transcript. Usually this UC CSU GPA is somewhere in between the weighted and unweighted on the transcript. For Mountain House High School, A is 4 points, B is 3 points, yes. For Mountain House High School, that is how we issue points. So if anyone wanted to just hand calculate it, you can do that. So A is 4 points, B is 3 points, C 2 points, D 1 point, F is a 0, and plus and minuses don't count. This GPA calculation, do we have to calculate and have an option to enter in UC application, or UCs calculate themselves? So UCs and CSUs will calculate the GPAs themselves, but it's good for students to know where they stand, especially if they're on like border GPAs, whether to apply. So for example, if a student doesn't have at least a minimum 3.0 GPA, it might not be a good idea for them to apply to UCs if the minimum GPA requirement is a 3.0. So they will calculate it themselves, but it's good for students to know where they are as far as their GPA calculation. Next question, for the 8 max of honors AP for that extra point, what classes will be do we get to choose? So it really doesn't matter where the AP and honors points come from. Again, it's just an extra point. So again, it doesn't matter if I get an extra point for this C, that's for Calc BC, or if I get an extra point from US History AP that got a B in. The extra point is just an extra point. So it's not specific to a class, it's just an extra point. So it really doesn't matter where it comes from. I think a lot of people get stuck on, well, how do they know what classes I want the extra point to come from? It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it won't matter what class it comes from. It's just an extra point that's considered in the GPA. It's because you count the A's, B's, C's, D's, and F's separately. So the extra points can come from any of them. It doesn't make a difference. Okay, once the meeting shuts off, because I only have 45 minutes for Zoom, I won't be logging back in, but we do have another presentation at 6 p.m. tonight that all of you are welcome to attend. So for the next couple minutes, I will take a few more questions and then we will go ahead and end the presentation. The recording of the presentation will be on the Mountain House High School website. We will send information with all the recordings, and the PowerPoints will also all be there. So that you'll have access to the links and you'll have access to this PowerPoint presentation, including the recording for tonight's presentation. You're welcome. Hopefully I answered all of your questions. Another questions, do UCs count courses taken outside of Mountain House High School when determining cumulative GPA? Yeah, if it's an A through G class and you're needed for something, even though we don't articulate it, they will look at courses taken outside of the high school. You're all welcome. Is there an upper limit on max honors and AP courses for points? I'm not sure what that question is asking. The next question, do the community college courses get 1 extra point like AP and honors? So with the community college, it's a little bit tricky to answer that question because like I mentioned, UCs will give you 1 grade, 1 honors point for community college classes, but CSUs, just because we're talking about both systems here, will give you 2, you'll count the grade twice in the GPA. So for UCs, just 1 class, 1 point. I think we mentioned that here. So yeah, so the UCs, 1 college course, 1 grade, 1 honors point, whereas the CSUs will count it for 2 classes. There's a question or statement, I guess. It says, I heard that Mountain House High School is not allowing articulated courses from Delta College next year. Is that true? That's not true. We have a non-MHHS page on the Mountain House website under counseling. Take a look at that as far as what we articulate and what we don't. Next question, can we include PE Lifetime Fitness? So no, PE, classes like PE and TA are not college prep courses. So those courses will not be included in the calculation. Like I mentioned before, any class that does not have the little P next to the course, like right here, we can see PE. It does not have a P indicating that it's college prep. So we cross it off and we don't consider that. Question, let's assume they give extra point on an AP course and with extra point, they give 5 points. But if they select a different AP course instead of an AP course that has a C, then that would be 3 points. In both scenarios, the calculated GPA of all courses will be different in each case. No, that's not how it works. So the way that AP, so when we're calculating, right, we're calculating all of our A's. So we're getting all of those A points, right? So we have 11 A's, they're all worth 4 points. So we do 11 times 4, right? So we're getting all of those A's. For the B's, we're getting all of those B points. So each B is 3 points. For the C's, we're getting all of those C points, 3 points for each. I mean, 2 points for each C. So we've already earned our 4 points for every A, we've earned our 3 points for the B, and we've earned our 2 points for the C. Now, when we're calculating AP and honors points, it's only 8 points. So it doesn't matter if you got an extra point for the C, or if you got an extra point for the B, or if you got an extra point from the A. It's just the total of 8 points that you add. We've already received the points from the A's, B's, and C's separately. So if you ever try to hand calculate it and give yourself an extra point for a C instead of a, you don't add the extra point when we're calculating it here. You just add the extra point when it comes to adding the honors and AP credit. So I hope that makes sense. So that's why when I say the point, where the point comes from, as far as what class specifically, it doesn't matter because it's an extra point. Whether you get it from the C or the A, it's just an extra point. Yeah, so this number isn't going to change. So whether this 1 point, or let's say these 8 points all came from C's instead of A's, it's still 8 points. If they came from all the A's, again, it's still 8 points. So it doesn't matter. I hope that helps answer that question. Of course, no problem. Sorry for the background noise. I'm at home and my kids are being loud. Question. Did you see for anyone UC GPA going up more than Mount House weighted GPA on transcript? Yeah, so some students maybe didn't have the best freshman year, and so maybe their GPA on the Mount House high school transcript is a little bit low, but since we don't consider freshman year, let's say they had some C's, but then in sophomore year, they really picked up their academics and they're getting mostly A's and B's. I have seen where their UC CSU GPA has been higher calculated than what was listed on the transcript, just because the CSU UC GPA doesn't look at freshman year. Yeah, so it kind of just depends on how the student is doing. I've also seen it lower because maybe they did really well in their freshman year, and then maybe sophomore and junior year got a little bit hard and they didn't do as well. So it just really depends on how students are doing. I've also seen where the more A's a student has gotten, has lowered their GPA, because you have to be mindful that it's an average. So as your average number is increasing, your average is decreasing. So take that into consideration as well. Last question for tonight. If someone took a total of 10 APs or honors, they can get full 10 points? No. They cannot get the full 10 points. If they took 15, 16, 17, 18, 10, 9, it doesn't matter. They only get a maximum of 8. I mentioned earlier that there are 2 schools that are making an exception. That's UCLA and UC Berkeley. They will consider your weighted GPA. The rest of the schools are looking at a maximum of 8 points. They will take all the classes as far as counting all the A's, B's, and C's, but to issue honors, extra honors and AP points, they're only considering 8. We do not include, the question is, just to confirm, we do not include freshman grades, right? That is correct. We're not including freshman grades. All right, that's it for tonight. Thank you all for joining. Please go to our next presentation at 6 p.m. tonight. Have a great night. Take care.